Hey everyone, and welcome back to the blog, or if you're watching on YouTube, then you are equally as welcome. If you don't know me, I'm Mark, a diabetes specialist dietitian. If you're watching on YouTube, then make sure you check out the blog, which is diabetesdietguide.com, which offers loads of free information about the management of diabetes and also healthy eating and living healthy lives. If you need an extra helping hand, we offer courses and programs to show you every step of the way about gaining control of your diabetes and your weight, to show you step by step how you can live a long and healthy life. Now, today's video is off the back of a few inquiries that I've had on Facebook in our community group. You can also check that out at facebook.com/diabetesdietguy. So you can join thousands of other people that are interacting and getting involved in the community. But I get quite a few messages asking me, particularly from a type 2 perspective, that they are, a classic example might be they're taking lots of medication, their glucose levels are high, they feel pretty lousy, what should they do? Now, of course, it's very hard to advise on Facebook, and I'd never actually attempt to advise over Facebook. Pretty unethical, and really I'd need a full medical background and actually do it in the realms of a private consultation on a one-to-one basis so we could go over everything. But nonetheless, it does show us this classic example of someone that over the years has seen their health start to get away from them, their glucose levels are starting to rise, and they have more and more diabetes therapies added into the equation. So I just wanted to take some time today to explain actually what can you do about this and what's driving that problem in the first place. And I've kind of drawn it out here over the course of someone's diabetes lifespan, okay? So on the right here, we have your HbA1c. If you don't know what HbA1c is, I've done full blogs about this on the diabetesdietguide.com. But essentially, it's your 3-month average of your glucose. So it's how we measure how well you're doing with your glucose control. There are other measures of this, particularly in type 1 diabetes, like time in target, but this is still the gold standard. It's just a blood test, okay? So it's what they'll do when you go visit your diabetes specialist nurse or your GP. On the bottom here, we have time. And the green line represents what your glucose levels is doing over that time. And then each circle is an event of extra medication being added in. And then the blue line is kind of like the average trend. So already we can see the average trend is up. Okay, so your glucose levels are going up over time. Now, as you can also see, each time we're having to add in extra medication, we get a little drop in your glucose control. So actually it improves, but the trend still continues upwards. So essentially what we're saying, each time we add in an extra medication, is that to achieve the same glucose control, we need twice as many or more medications to achieve the same glucose control as what you previously had. So what's this showing us? It's showing us that the body is struggling. So almost each time you get another diabetes medication added into the mix, it's not a good thing. It shows us that then to achieve that same level of glucose control, you need more medications to do it. So it shows that the body's no longer doing it for you, so we need something else to do it for you instead. So each time you get one of these events, it almost should act as a wake-up call to think, how can I change my lifestyle to improve my type 2 diabetes? Because ultimately we know categorically for 90% of people with type 2 diabetes, lifestyle, diet, exercise is really the thing that can make a big difference. So let's look at this green line in particular then. So here, this is pre-diagnosis, and over the years it's starting to creep up until it gets to 48 millimoles per mole. So that's your diagnostic point. So you now have diabetes, and at this point they might say you're going to be diet controlled or take some subtle therapy like metformin perhaps. Let's say in this example it's diet controlled, but the diet doesn't change, the lifestyle doesn't change. So the glucose levels continue to get worse until it gets to around 59 millimoles per mole. Don't read too much into these numbers, but here they've offered you some single therapy, perhaps metformin, and you get an improvement. So actually, brilliant. You think glucose levels are good, and at this point when you go see your diabetes specialist nurse, they don't have the time to be sat there going through the entire lifestyle and everything else with you. They're very limited in what they can offer. So really what you're probably going to get, and I don't want to speak for everyone because there might be some nurses that do take the time, but chances are at this point you're going to be told, things look good, carry on as you are. So you think, brilliant, I will, things are looking great. But what you don't know is this is waiting for you because you haven't changed anything from your lifestyle or your diet. then you're not addressing the underlying issue of the diabetes. And if you don't address the underlying issue of the diabetes, it's going to continue to get worse. So the glucose levels start to rise, and then you're back to where you were before you had the medication added in, and it keeps getting high until you have another appointment, and this is when they pick it up and say, oh, figures have crept up, we're going to need to add something in. So they add in another medication. Of course, you get an improvement, you go see the GP or the nurse and they say things are looking much better, well done, keep going. And the same pattern repeats. And at this point, when it's starting to get quite high with your glucose control, these are the sort of points where you might be starting to think about insulin. And insulin, it's not always, but it's kind of a point where it shows us that the body's really struggling. We need to supplement insulin to compensate for the fact that you're very insulin resistant, it's not working very well, and even the pancreas might not be producing enough anymore. It's starting to wear out. So that can almost be a point of no return, not in everyone, but particularly if you're getting into large doses of insulin, it can be that point where actually we're not going to get back to here. Whereas at these points, you might actually be able to turn back the clock and put the diabetes into remission. So even here, let's say you've given insulin, the control comes right back down. You're doing really well from a blood glucose perspective, but to achieve this, you're having to take potentially insulin and 2 other medications, maybe even 3 other medications to get back to those normal levels when you were at the start. But of course, things start to progress again because we've not changed anything from a lifestyle perspective. So you have to keep increasing the insulin, change the different types of insulin regimen until you find yourself in this point where we're throwing lots of insulin at you. And keep in mind, insulin have their own particular profile. So not all of them match exactly what you're doing day to day. Some will look after you overnight. Some will look after breakfast and dinner, as well as keeping you safe throughout the day in terms of insulin coverage. But it's very hard to get an insulin that can be as flexible as what your pancreas would be doing. Okay, so we're just trying to do the best we can with the tools that we have. So if you're finding that you're on insulin, multiple therapies for diabetes, and the glucose levels are still running high, this is a wake-up call. Like, this is the time to really start thinking about your lifestyle, trying to get as active as possible, trying to lose weight if you're carrying extra weight, and trying to look at your diet. Now, if you don't know what to do, there is plenty of information on my blog and out there on the internet. And if you just want a step-by-step guide, check out my type 2 diabetes recovery program. It's there to help you and show you exactly what you need to do. Plenty of educational videos to talk you through all of this, plus much more. Exercise, diet, gives you a diet plan, not to be followed strictly, but just to show you the types of food that you need to be eating a lot of, types of food that you need to portion control, and the foods that are probably best avoided, left for once in a while. So it's very flexible, shows you what to do, and there is a fee attached. It's £90, but that gives you a lifetime access. If you need to do this, then it's a great investment for your health because you really can't put a price on that. Now, hopefully you can see then that what we don't want to do is have this trend. Ideally, we want to be catching this before it's starting to accumulate and starting to progress. So the idea is with type 2 diabetes, prevention is better than cure, because it can get to a point where cure becomes very difficult or not actually an option, and then we're just swimming against the tide. And the longer these numbers stay high, the more chance you have of complications. And this is the thing we're keen to avoid. So, if you have diabetes for 30 years and you don't get any complications and you're not particularly aware of it, then it's neither here nor there. But the problem is we know a lot of people get caught out, particularly as their glucose levels start to run high. So for those of you that have messaged me, what can you do? There's a couple of things. First thing, speak to your medical team, because it might be that there are other therapies they can offer that might be better suited to you, which will actually help bring you back and actually keep you well controlled. Okay, so some people will be well controlled on the therapies that they are on. But really what we want to do is stop this happening in the first place. We don't want to have to keep throwing medications at it. 1, we're actually masking the problem. 2, it's costly to the NHS. So really, the thing to do is start thinking about that lifestyle. So what can you eat? How active can you get? Because that's the way you start to address the problem that started to accumulate way back here as the glucose levels started to rise. It shows us something's broken. You have a leak almost. If you're thinking about it as a ship, there's a link, and up here, this is where the ship's going to sink. So really what we don't want to be doing is just trying to throw the water out of a cup, then a bucket, then something larger, and then to this point when it's actually just unmanageable, the ship's going down. So really here, if we fix the leak, the problem wouldn't have occurred in the first place. So hopefully that answers kind of how to think about this. So with type 2 diabetes, like I say, prevention is the best therapy. If you need more help, check out the blog, check out the programs, and get on Google and have a look. Diabetes UK is also a really good reputable source to look at. So I'll probably leave it there. I'm going to go off and actually address my problem, which is this hair, because it's getting a bit long in lockdown. So I will do some more videos over the coming weeks. So stay safe, guys, and I will speak to you very soon, all right?